being said, I am going to now introduce our artist for today. And this is another artist I'm really excited to see. She may not remember this, but I was able to work with her uh, at a international or one of our national exhibitions when we were doing them out at the firehouse in Pleasanton, and she did a demo for us. Just I think it was an hour-long demo on plein air painting. That was just really incredible, and probably was one of the most well-attended demos that we had done out there. And unfortunately, I cannot find my bio for Barbara, but I can tell you Barbara Tapp is a prolific plein air artist. I follow her online on Instagram as well as Facebook, and I don't know of any other artists that I follow or watch closely that posts and paints as much as she does. I did see in her bio that she paints every day, and I believe that based on her postings. And she enters a lot of plein air competitions and plein air paint outs. She's all over the world doing those things constantly. I'm not sure how she keeps her routine up, uh, but she was a architectural illustrator, which are one of those folks that has that ability to draw. I do remember from reading her demo that she was a student of drawing from the time she was a child. So with that being said, I'm going to let her fill in the blanks in terms of maybe her bio, and then we'll let her get started with painting. But Barbara, you're on, and welcome.
Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. Thanks very much for joining me. Yeah, I do paint a lot. I draw probably every day, but I don't necessarily get out to paint. But I think that's probably because I was stuck inside an office drawing houses for the real estate market and for architects for so long that once I got a taste 10 years ago, 8 years ago, of plenty of painting, I just want that to be my studio now. Um,
So Barbara, was your background as an architect?
no, I was
Oh, okay.
a I was an interior design, which is a space planner, not a decorator. And then my first job was in a zoo as an exhibition designer. And
Okay.
then I traveled around the world. Fate intervened. I ended up drawing hotels for a travel series, and we updated them every year. There were 14 copies of them. And one day a realtor looked at I donated 3 of the books to a fundraiser, and he said, if you can draw hotels, could you draw houses? And I was also married to an architect, and I was always drawing renderings and things for architects. So it just grew itself from a at home raising a family business to a very much a full-time job of sleeping 4 or 5 hours at night.
Wow. Did you say you designed exhibits for zoos?
Yes, so I actually did an enormous amount of illustrating animals for big, huge displays.
Oh, wow. That must have been exciting work.
Yeah, it was. I'd still be there now if I hadn't left Australia.
Wow, that's
It
great.
was
You must
phenomenal.
be
And I've
excited.
worked, pardon?
You must be excited about the pandas coming back.
I am. I did get to also work at the Academy of Sciences for an entomologist for a number of years. And that was also very interesting. I could have drawn anything there isn't anything I don't love to draw.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you.
Okay, so I'd like to start basically talking about or emphasizing how important it is to draw. And even if you don't feel that it comes naturally, having a sketchbook is very important. And in my sketchbooks, I have many illustrations or many paintings here that are fun to look back at, but it is the way that I start when I go into the field. Um, I want to explain also that I have passions. So I always have an intent. And the intent can start from the first of the year where I want to explore something, or I have an intent when I'm going driving out to paint. And I will write that intent in my phone And at the moment, my intent is looking for natural arrangements. I like to tell a story. I like to look at arrangements of objects, natural or man-made, and how they occur naturally in, putting that there, in life. So for instance, here we have this little shed. It turned out to be the home for a farm worker. But my curiosity was piqued with this. I'm also very perspective driven, but I loved this, couldn't understand what it was. And I start also with my shadows first, because painting outdoors for 4 hours, I lose those shadow shapes. So that's what we're going to work on today. But I love complicated perspectives and the relationships between the objects. And sometimes I'll take a long time to look for the subject of what I want to paint about. So I have a sense of humor, and my sense of humor often will come out in my storyline that I'm thinking about. So for instance, this was just delightful, with the 2 chairs waiting for the people to come. And back to this one, if you look at this closely, there's a pair of shoes at the top of the doorway. And that just was, what on earth is that there for? Why are they there? Well, I found out later that they had turkeys, and in the wet season, the guy would bring his boots and put them here, and I guess the turkeys would get them. So he designed and created this little thing to put his boots up there. So, you know, stories within stories. I'm not just a painter who likes to paint. Natural arrangements can be things like this. This is at the Caballo Point. This is my star, and then this is my supporting, but it's set in this wonderful green setting. Here's another example of, this was done during the Sausalito paint out that they had, and all the boats didn't have any of their sails up, but to bring the story alive, I added the figure and put the sails all in. And then here's another one. This is amusing to me, because when I looked at this, I sort of said Mother Tractor and her pups. That's what these looked like, these little barrows that were you know, in this scene. And then the last one is from Point Reyes Station. And when I came around the corner, I saw the sofa. So my title is Welcome to the Neighborhood. You know, it's nice having a sense of humor and then painting a story about it. I'm attracted to strong forms, man-made or in nature. And I'm primarily now an outdoor painter. I don't really paint anywhere else. Today, what I want to do is talk to you, or give you a demonstration of a scene that I saw as I was passing by in Bolinas 2 weeks ago. And why did I choose this? I chose it because my first question was, I wonder what's around the corner. And 2 is, I love the arrangement. I love I'm going to pick this up and just bring it closer to you so that you can see it a little better. I like the arrangement of the telescoping cars going backwards, and also the shadow shapes were very strong. So it had naturally good light. When you do paint plein air over 4 hours, those beautiful shadows that originally attracted me go and disappear. So I came up with this idea of putting all my darks in, which is the way that oil painters go. Anyway, I'm going to start with my process, and hopefully we can get through the whole of this painting. If not, I did finish an example of it, and we'll work from there. So these are my sketchbooks. These are Stillman and Byrne. I have a beta series, Zeta series. This is the blue beta. It's a good sturdy paper. I always put basically the shape of the painting that I'm going to do, and then I look for my big shapes. I want to get across to you that drawing is very important. As I draw this in, I'm thinking about how I'm going to paint this. I'm thinking of my colors. I'm thinking of the blocking in, the process, that are going to use. If there's anyone out there who wants to ask a question, please do. So, but I'm just putting in the light and the dark. I'm seeing some nice darks in here. This is going to be in shadow. This is a very strong shadow, directional shadow. I know that I have a very light area here. So I write down light and dark, good shadows. What's around the corner? Great natural arrangements. And then I block in. I don't use white in any of my paintings, so I have to preserve my light area. So there's a light area there on the roof of the van. There's also a beautiful light that goes down the side here. I know that that's a dark area. I know that this is in shadow. This basically is all in shadows with a few highlights. That's a highlight. And underneath there are going to be some highlights, some darks. This is a big whole mass. I don't need to put any detail into it. I know I'm going to silhouette that. Lightly do it. I can look at my lights and darks here. I can establish where I think my darkest darks are, which is that area, this area, tie the shapes together. And that pretty much gives me the pattern. This doesn't really matter. This is going to be loose, wet into wet. So I did mark this out. I need to shift it over. Let's see.
Barbara, is it possible to bring your reference photo down a little bit?
Yes. Let's see.
Or yeah, just let it or overlap it. Yeah, great.
That better?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, I might be able to actually put it
Yeah, that
here.
works.
And then bring that up a bit.
Yeah.
And you need to be able to see the bottom of the, that's the
Okay.
bottom, just there. But
whatever works for you.
I need to get over there. Right?
Okay, perfect.
It's better?
Yeah.
I have all these silly props. Okay. Will that work?
Yes, because most of that up on top is a tree.
Yes, it's nothing. Okay, so anyway, when I'm transferring a painting onto a piece of paper, I don't use a grid, but I have some idea of where my focal point. Yes? Somebody say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
Thank you.
So where my focal point is, which is going to be in this area here. Anyway, so I like to feel my paper. I know my boundaries are here. I like to feel the shapes. That's how I get the scale. So if I were to use my hand small like that, then I would plot a much smaller set of buildings and cars. But the building itself, I get a feel for the size that I want on the paper by using my hand on it. So it's just a very individual thing to do. I'm going to draw a little hard so that you can see. When I'm sketching, I am constantly referencing and going back. So I'm looking at this corner in relationship to that corner. And even though it's much higher in my photograph, I've lost you. Have I lost you?
No, we're still here.
Can you see me?
Well, we can see your work area, yes.
Okay, I've lost you on my screen. Hold on.
Oh, no, you're still good.
I think you're underneath here. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I just was saying here, you don't have, I'm not going to photograph, I'm not going to work from a photograph. I'm going to work from the proportion that suits me in my painting. So I've got to move this over. Anyway, so I'm looking for big shapes. I'm not going to talk. If somebody needs to ask a question, they can. Just while I lay this in. Of course, my sketches take 4 hours. My sketches don't take 4 hours. My paintings take 4 hours. So what you're getting is a highly abridged version. You will get my process as much as I can give to you. But there's a lot of stages and steps that you go through. Again, these are big things, big shapes. I've got to preserve those light areas. I need to know where my dark area is in here. I'm going to expand that. Don't be afraid that when you draw something up, that you get to the end of the drawing and you see it's all out of proportion and it's wrong. Erase it. Don't accept that it's something that's badly drawn, because it will come back to bite you. I have done drawings in competitions that take 2 or 3 hours, really that long, and I have erased the whole thing, knowing that I have hours or days. I don't have to submit that painting until much later. And so I will erase or else take the sheet of paper and go and start something completely brand new again. So don't fall into that trap of, oh my goodness, I've committed myself, I've gone too far. If it's not right, take it away, put it away at a distance, and then check that it's right. Okay, that's accurate enough for me. All right, I use mostly Daniel Smith colors. On my palettes, I always put the list. I have some Holbein paints as well, and I do change these. They get dated, so this one's 2017. And this one is 2022. And what I took out of this was my Naples yellow, which I've had to put up there. So I do change things around. You know what? I'm going to move my camera to see if I can get some more. I don't know. You can't. I'm over too much to the side, but then it's covering my palette. Joe, does that work better?
Yeah, that's fine. We have a good view of your palette and of the painting.
I know, for some reason I've got my arms around the camera is there. So I'm kind of painting around it, which is really odd. Okay, all right. So I start off with a pool of cobalt blue. When I do my shadows first, you have to think to yourself, well, I want you to know that it's not necessarily blue. So you don't have to do blue shadows. Your shadows can have lots of color in them. It's just to get this principle across, starting with your blues is an easy thing to do. And it was also the basic way that we did architectural shadows in renderings. But I will put out a variety of, I've got cobalt, ultramarine, indanthrene, I think it's Van Dyke brown, and a burnt sienna. So they're the browns that I have. So nice and dirty water. I'm not too scared about it. But I'm going to come in here. Actually, I am going to change the water because it's too muddy at this early stage. And I want to have a lightish blue in this wash here. So this is going to be kind of a wet on wet. Nice and juicy. Fun. So when I did a practice of this, I pulled out some paper I had and it instantly failed. And I don't know if anyone's ever had that problem, but it scared the bejeebies out of me. This happened to me when I was doing the video for streamline, and I didn't have any other paper, and I had to paint this video with this terrible paper that was failing on me. So I'm just using the dirty water I've got. I see in my reference some really lovely pink that's been thrown onto this elevation. So this is your chance in this early wash to put in some other colors. And just drop them in. I'm not going to use a hairdryer. If I go silent. So there's also a nice bit of that reflection here of the pink up in there. And then you can, if you see other colors, this is your opportunity to put in, I'm putting a bit of ochre just in there. And there's a really nice bit of shadow line under here. Also with that pink. You may not be able to see it, but there is sort of a pinky thing happening.
What color were you adding for the pink?
That is Quinn Rose.
Okay.
Daniel Smith. And then have courage. Because this is all foundation stuff, it can be nice and loose and juicy, and this is the fun part. So it's like a value study. And again, if there's some other colors in it, that's just putting some ochre into it. I'm going to take a bit of that Quinn Rose too. I'll let it be a little loose. Who cares? It'll all fade away. This has got to be my lightest area. So I'm just going to put a sense of where this shape goes in. Because I'm going to be adding a lot of other things on top of this. Join those shapes together. All right. As it's drying, you can add a little bit more to areas where there might be some depth or shadow being cast underneath. And hope that this dries. Okay. So now I'm going to go into other shadows. I'm actually using a brush that I wasn't expecting to use. I'm going to change my brush. Still the shadows going in. It doesn't matter if they run into the wall. While that's nice and wet, drop a bit of the pink into it. Let it all happen. Joe, I can't talk while I'm painting. And
Somebody was asking, Bart, if you're using paints that are straight from the tube, or is your palette a dry palette?
Dry palette.
Okay.
So I put them all out on this. Yeah, they're Winsor and Newton, and hold on. I decided I want to make this van a purple. It's a blue color, but I don't pay a lot of attention to the values. I pay more attention to contrast. Some people would say that that's sort of the same, but I know everything's going to dry lighter. So I know that I'm going to be able to get a lot darker as I go. But I'm really trying just to get the big shapes in, which is actually rather fun. It's a nice stage of the painting. I use the blue in common if I'm making different colors, the blue is behind it or within those colors because that creates harmony. Rather than going into fresh colors. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. What brand of paper are you using?
This is Hahnemuhl.
Okay. Rough or
140 block.
Okay. Cold press, hot press?
Cold press. Not rough.
Okay.
It's rather beautiful. And this brush is a rosemary. It was gifted to me, so I really don't know a lot about it, but it's a synthetic rosemary. And honestly, it's a beautiful brush. I really love it. I'm just adding a bit of cad yellow. I use core cadmium yellow. I use core sap green, and I use core ultramarine or cobalt. They're sort of the what's the word? Exceptions to the rule. The sign at the back is in shadow. So you're sort of getting the gist of just big shapes. I wipe on my clothes a lot. So as I paint these sorts of shapes, I'm thinking to myself, where am I going to be painting next? What am I looking for? Where are my darkest dark areas that I'm going to move into? So I've got a really nice dark in here, but that's not dirty enough. There's also atmospheric distance, and that's where I love watercolor because of its transparency. You naturally on the first washes get a softer, much softer. Oh, see that can you see that what happened then? That ignited. Now, while I'm here and I'm thinking of this, I am going to take one of my brushes and just put some, I need a little variety here, textures. And this is the time to do it. Cobalt loves to separate beautifully. Okay. Looking again for my big shapes. This is the indanthrone. These shapes, except for the one at the edge, are all pretty much in shadow. I've dropped to a perler. I'm trying to keep the bumper with some light on it. The number plate will also have a shadow in it, but it's also lighter than, so you may as well just skip it and then later put details in. All right, I'm looking through this. In the field, I would be looking at my light shape, my dark shape, this coming together. I'm just going to add a bit of loose water on that top of that to tie it together so I can see it. Now I'm going to do wet into wet up in the top. I've got to change my water. Any questions out there in Zoom land?
Well, somebody was asking if you could run through your colors again on your palette.
I can't because I can't look at that.
Maybe at the end we can take a screenshot of that and I'll put it in the notes.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so what I'm going to do is just add pools of light greens in here. Who doesn't love doing this? Oh, I mean, it's so delicious. You know, compared to, I did it this afternoon as a test, and I'm just getting such a different result now. It's funny.
Somebody was asking what you enjoy about the Hanamuole paper.
Oh, I love the texture of it. It's you know, I just started using Saunders as well, and there's just a lovely texture to the Hanamuole. I like the way it dries. I like the people who run the company. I like their sketchbooks. I usually use mostly Stillman and Byrne, but I do love, I don't know, you know, I have flavors of the month.
Yeah.
And at the moment, my flavor of the month seems to be Hanamuole.
Their sketchbooks are beautiful and they're spiral bound, which is kind of nice.
You mean this Stillman and Byrne?
No, the Hanamuole sketchbooks.
So are the Stillman and Byrne. And I love that because I stand them up. So I have a sketchbook here. And can you see that?
Oh yeah.
So I love it because I can stand it like that and I can have my painting or my reference when I'm practicing. So I was going to show you that this was one where I took that arrangement and then I made it into this arrangement.
Ah.
Just big shapes, little shapes, moving the boats around. But so for instance, that's what I'll do is I'll set the Stillman and Byrne with the image there, and then I sketch down below it. And it's great. They're nice paper.
There's another question about if you're concerned with the temperature of the shadows
Yep.
in the sunlit areas.
Am I concerned about the temperature of at this point? No.
Okay.
I'm getting them down. No, because I can paint over them. This is really just like a guide, a color guide to what I'm eventually going to be doing.
Does your rosemary brush have a number or size on it?
0.
A 0, okay. And are you working flat or at an angle?
I'm working just slightly at an angle.
Okay.
And in fact, I don't use an easel. I use an easel flat. I hold my paintings in my hand and I manipulate them around. Like this is the sketchbook. I'm holding my art like this in my hands and I paint like that. I don't have it sitting on an easel.
Okay.
But look at this stuff. I mean, this is divine, wet on wet. There's no doubt about it. I mean, and already I'm excited because I've got all that energy happening and, you know, it just makes me want to work further through the painting to get a lot more of it resolved. I mean, we have discussions with our brains. But as far as yes, the value of this was lighter. It's still a shadow, but it was lighter, obviously, than this on the ground. So I am paying attention to it. But at this early stage, I'm not going into a finished level. This is part of my getting the information down. This is my color form key. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have things like accidents like that happen. I always have a cloth close by. You can never tell what's going to happen in this area. Look, it's very different painting from a photograph and painting from real life. Real life has all your senses on edge. And it's that it means that your eye is darting all over the place. When something's frozen, you can go back to something that's not resolved. But in plein air painting, it's not like that. It's like dealing with a wild beast. And I love that. I love the unknown spontaneity that can come out of my brushstrokes because I'm reacting to the howling wind. I mean, whereas this is a frozen moment. I've just got to get down that information onto here. And I can choose selectively where I'm going to go next. Well, in the field, it doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might see the wind going through the trees and you say, oh, I've got to get that. I've got to get that feeling. I've got to react to that. And so you go all over your paper. In this case, I have a procedure, and the procedure is certainly establishing my darkest darks, which are these, and my lightest lights, which are those and these areas here around the cars and that space there and that space there. I know that they're my boundaries. I work within those areas. And as you said, even with Michael, that he goes through this sort of soupy thing. I'm a color person. I love color. I can't work with the limited palettes. It's just not me. So I'm putting down color, but the basic thing is the same. It's putting down this initial color key, contrast shadow key, and then going down in your brush size as you start to bring out the shapes and bring out the information. And in the field, Joe, you start to see more things.
Yes.
When you're there at first, you see an overall thing, and then your sketchbook, you put down the overall. And then as you paint further into this, things start to reveal themselves. So it's important that you look for the big shapes. I don't look for the windows. I don't look for the planking. I don't look for the people I'm going to put in this little scene here, because I feel that I want to entice the viewer a little further into here. I don't put down all the information of the tires and all of that, because I know I'm going to put that in later. I also want spontaneous mucky muck stuff to happen, because I can turn around and lift at any point, which I do. But I'm establishing a key at the moment without too much detail. And it's fun. I mean, this is fun. This is spontaneous fun. Paper's still wet. I can go all over the place. I know that it's going to dilute somewhat. It can be frustrating. but at the same time, it can be extremely rewarding. Now, something's revealing itself to me here. There is a triangle at the edge of the building right there that I want to get in now. That's not a full intensity pigment. That's slightly wet so that it's a little transparent. Is that right? It's hard to verbalize when you paint alone.
Well, it's interesting, Barbara. I get to work with 6 or 7 artists a year doing the workshops, and every single artist that I've talked to, or almost everyone, says if you want to be a better painter, then start painting outside.
I think that's because of the observational part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to appreciate light.
Mm-hmm.
You start to appreciate it. I mean, again, all the senses are completely activated. And this is painting from photographs is formulaic to a point, because you know that if you're working from a photo, you know that you're wanting to recreate that in your style. It's got nothing to do with recreating it perfectly as what it is. But when you get outside, the element of the unknown enters into the whole thing, and you can't control things. And it's a wild ride. It's a good wild ride, but it's a wild ride. So now I've got down for myself right now as much of the basic sort of shapes so that I now know that I can start to go in with a little bit more finer information. I don't have to have resolved all of this. I can do things like come in here while this is still a bit juicy. Someone was asking about the Honeymill paper. It's very pleasant to lift. So I've just lifted that little section in there. It doesn't matter about whether I took off a bit of that part of the tree. I can start doing things like linking some of the stuff together. There is a beautiful dark. Okay, here's a confession. I get bored easily. And because I get bored easily, I want to do things in paintings that will reactivate my interest in what I was painting. So that's why I'm putting this dark in now. Because I suddenly went, oh, I want to play that shape off this shape. So I'm going to go and do that now. Whether that was a wise decision or not, who knows? But I know I have to go all over the map doing exactly those sorts of things, because that's the way my brain functions. So I'm going to wet this same color, but a little softer, looser, juicier, just to let it blend in a little bit more. I don't want it as heavy. This is like watching paint dry on a wall. I'm notorious for getting paint all over me. So, and I'm also making a decision that for me, this is too dark. So at this point, okay, what I'm doing is I'm looking at this value to that value. And I know that this underneath here, they're my darkest darks. So I don't want to go, I need to bring that down for you. I will bring this down. Is that better? Okay, that's going to be my darkest dark. So this is wrong. But at this stage, it's lifted. It's a bit of a tango. Going all over the place, all the map. All right, now I want to bring in, again, I'm playing games with my head because I want to stay interested in my painting. Sometimes, Joe, when I'm painting in a competition, I start a painting off And I get to a certain point and I go, oh God, I got another 4 hours of this to get the result that I'm looking for. And I get disillusioned. It's just like, oh, I don't know if I can get to the end. And you persevere because you know that now. So again, here's another little thing of me. I'm bored. Well, who the heck would put the lovely little tail lights in now? I do, because that's just sparked up my painting, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're getting the inner me from this. Still looking at how this is not. I'm sorry, it's crooked, people out there.
Oh, that works fine.
Okay, all right. So now I'm going to beef up. I need to beef up the back of this, but there's a transition in there of dark. There's a nice little line. Gee, this paper's good. And then there's lighter in there. I don't need that, but I'm going to put in, I want to put in a bit of actual blue here. And then this as well. And then building the story, I want to put a continuation of this red here to make this pop. Then I'm going to join the shape there. And what's nice about that is that I've got a lighter area there where I didn't put paint, and I've got a lighter area there. So that's a bit of life in the painting. These supports are all in shadow. So you can start to see that the shapes start to reveal themselves. I'm going to join that. This is fiddly stuff. Sorry if I'm boring you all.
No, it's fascinating.
You're all a bit quiet.
Well, we're listening to your mind, your inner mind.
Oh, my inner mind. It's a Looney Tune. No, I've been so spooked about doing this. I mean, how do you tell what you do innately? It's such a plein air painting is so intimate. It's between you and whatever you're painting. It's not a thing that you really share. You can talk about it afterwards, but the experience itself is very much a discussion in your own head. And, there's success and there's failure. I'm just putting in, these are going to be a couple of heads people, just to remind me that they're there. I'm focusing in on this because this is my focal point, and I can afford to do detail in here. I can afford to introduce a little bit of different coloring in this area because I want to draw you through. This is not resolved, this section, but the conversation is there. I can bring in another step by wetting my paper here. I can then drop in a slightly different color of green. You could do this back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until you get exactly what you're after. Go on the other side of here. It's really nice once you've got these washes down to put clean water on top and then drop other colors into them. So I'm going to drop in sort of a brown just in there. Can you see that? Is that coming across or not?
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to go down into, I want to build the form in here. You can see the conversation starting to pop in this. And this is a Princeton brush. So I'll jump back and forward. In this photograph, there's another car that's got its hatch open. Well, I don't need to show that. Nobody needs to know what's going on there. And so I'm going to just, I think this is a Mercedes, but you don't need to put down exactly what it is. So I put in a nice big bold color, and then I just add water to it and move it around on the page. You don't get the chance to look at it in this detail when you're painting live, because the mosquitoes come out and bitten you. You can hear the, I don't know, the wind's getting worse. I mean, there's all sorts of things that come out at you. You get hungry, or you need to go to the bathroom. Now, I know that there is a really lovely light blue in there. So I'm not going to put any more detail in this right now. I'm going to wait until that area dries. How are we going for time?
It's 8:16 or 8:15, so you've got 45 minutes.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool, except I can't find where my brush is. Okay, all right. So logic says that there's blue in this roof, right? May not look it, but there is, because it's reflecting the sky. Even though it's a brown roof, or if in some cases it is a brown roof. So I start with a blue, and then I might add a bit of blue to a brown and just get, and let it drop down the page. Let gravity pull it down. And then there is a trim that's not important that can go in now at this point, start defining a bit the structure. I'm using, pretty rough brush, not fine brush. So it's like values or tones of the blues and the purples to bring out the structure. I don't mind if these are loose, just adding water. And one thing I was going to say is that I often draw through my paintings. So once I've got a nice wash down, these are Papermate, and unfortunately they had how do I say it? Can't think of it. They remade the pencils, and they cut down on the quality of graphite, and so they're not nearly as good as the original old ones. So I'm looking at things like the angle that's coming down in relationship to the angle of the fascia, and I'm looking at the distance between that and that. If I was being really accurate and working for an architect, all those things matter. In a painting, no, not so much. And while this was wet, I could have taken the back end of my brush and scraped through my lines. And so there's lots of opportunities to do other things. I'm going to come in here now and just sort of draw in the figures. I'm going to put some arms in there. I'm going to put some chairs and tables here. I might make one yellow because, again, I'm bored and I want a punch of yellow, a punch of color. Boom, boom. Yep. I don't need to be very specific about that. Now what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm again looking at my values, and I can see here I've got a very fine line, like a 2. I needed to pop in a bit of contrast different to the van so that I can get an edge. Work with that edge. Again, remember I said I don't work with, I don't add white to my paintings. I preserve it. I got that old-fashioned. My father was an architect and he did very classical rendering in university, and I inherited his paintings. And I mean, they're flawless. The recreations that they did of historical buildings and that. I was never taught that. I'm self-taught. I had one semester of rendering, could you believe it? And that was it. I'm just going to paint around these figures, leaving a sort of a white space. That's really a good thing when you're putting figures in. If you paint around them, they often pop out more easily. I have to get rid of that light space in there. And I don't want to necessarily blend it. So I'm just going to run water down it. So that took away that distracting light space and allowed this and that and these two. So I'm going to keep working on that to get those to pop more. In a painting, I have a pièce de résistance, always something to look forward to. And 2 things are the things that I look forward to right now. This base, and I'm asking myself, oh, how are you going to do that? And then the shadows that are going to go underneath here, because I know that they're really dark. So I've got that to look forward to. And Barbara, you need to speed it up a little bit. Okay, while this is still wet, I'm just going to drag. When you're doing lines on a roof, work from top to bottom and try and stay parallel to each other. That's an old trick. If you don't, well, you can put variations and shapes into them once you've got this grid down. And I'll show you what I mean. You change the color. And then now I'm going to sort of put some gribbly things in there to make the roof has some texture. And then when that's dried, I might run a wash in there as well. I don't want to define this too much because, again, that's my focal point. Any questions out there in Zoom land?
No, we're doing good.
They're all speechless. Tomorrow at 6 a.m., I'm driving to Sedona
Oh,
for a competition.
awesome place.
Yeah, it's actually. I'm just going to put that whole thing in. Okay. Got too fussy then. Didn't need to be, just need to be a big shape.
So Barbara, I did mention that I follow you on quite a few places, and I see that you're all over the world, plein air painting. Do you, yeah, people talk about the light being different in different parts of the world or different parts of the country. Do you find that that's true?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The more arid
Hmm.
countries. Oh, look at this. That's called the law of chance. Convert it into something or just get it to be part of the painting. But don't sweat because you did that. Yes, yes. So desert areas, it reflects lighter. The sky is lighter, not as deep and intense. Heavily forested areas to me have a lot more contrast. But Mediterranean light really does exist. Californian light, Northern California light really does exist. It's rather wonderful. But I do really notice it. Desert is a light sky, and I find it. I'm not used to it. It doesn't
Yeah.
suit me. So what am I doing now? I'm going through the painting and I'm saying to myself, okay, Barbara, you need to join your shadows and things together. So I've got to tone this down with the original blue that I used. I've got to incorporate it in, and then I'm going to drop a bit more into that corner there to give it a bit of variation. And I'm looking at here, I'm looking at here. I want to make this tone darker. So this is again the tango that you're doing in the painting. Yeah, I don't know how else I can answer you. Aussie light is different. I mean, it bounces off the leaves differently. It bounces off the branches of the trees differently, the sea.
Somebody asked, what type of competitions do you compete in, and do you have a favorite type?
They're all plein air. I have favorite places to paint more than I have. Yeah, you graduate out of them. I get bored, I
Hmm.
must admit. Okay, well, whoever's out there listening to this is going to hear me say it. I don't like being a performing monkey.
Hmm.
And some of the events that they go to, they've done them for years and they paint the same things. I don't want that. So I move around a bit. I mean, it's not easy to get into these events. Sometimes they're by invitation and you're lucky you get in, and then some of them aren't. I love painting in Maine. There is a light, yes. There is a sensibility. The people themselves, there's something extraordinarily wonderful about painting in Maine. But yeah, if I could go back, I've painted in Pennsylvania, and of course the subject matter is stuff I don't know. I don't know those silos, and that motivates me. I've never done the Grand Canyon, and that event apparently is extraordinary. But I also have a confession to make that I am a cheap and cheerful painter, and there are great painters out there. I'm kind of a people's painter. I'm self-taught. But the caliber of painters that you come across in these events, it's mind-blowing. You just, it's such an honor to be there. I used to get intimidated. I don't anymore because I just say to myself, you got to be you, Barbara. You know, you see things differently, just paint those things. Paint what floats your boat. Don't worry about the technical stuff. I'm going to be painting with, I don't know if you know Richard Sneary and Richie Vios. They're all coming to Sedona. And honestly, they are tremendous plein air painters. But that's not what it's about for me. I go because I want to paint in these specific areas. And I do choose. I mean, I've really loved going to Louisiana. I knew nothing about the culture. So I think my objective is to do events that will take me to places that I know nothing about culturally. You know, I don't know if I've answered that well enough.
No, that's wonderful. Somebody's asking, when you choose a scene to paint, besides the natural arrangement of the objects, do you also seek emotional reaction to the scene as a criteria?
Yes, that's called the essence. So I will ask myself a question and I will say, what is the essence here? What am I trying to get? And that can be very important, particularly if it's the Golden Gate with the fog going through it. I mean, you've got a structure, but at the same time, you have the essence of the fog. And I love to throw that out to myself as a challenge, to go and say, okay, Barbara, today you got to capture the essence. Just imagine if there was a person who grew up in the Grand Canyon and they knew nothing about the experience of that fog going in and out of the towers. How can you get across that? So anyway, yeah, so that's very important. So I am now going to add, unfortunately, a bit dirty Naples yellow for my light source ground, and you will see it can go over my blue shadow and not worry it. So that's where putting these shadows in is not, it's not that scary. You can actually paint over them. And then don't forget that when I get to the end of the painting, I can go over and bolster this whole thing up again at another notch, another level. So at this stage, looking at the painting, I'm looking still at big shapes. I'm not looking at finishing the painting. So then you start to say to yourself, at what point do I transition into starting to finish the painting? And that's when I bring out small brushes, I bring out my calligraphy. I put in, much cleaner, crisper lines throughout. I find details that I want to add into the painting. And finishing a painting is really, really an important time. Good, you should step away from your work and see what's working and what isn't working. I often turn my page to the side, pick it up. Okay. I can't get this straight.
Barbara, I'm going to give you a time check. It's 8:30, so you have a half hour.
Oh, good. I'll get there.
Great.
I've got to get the schmutz off my hands. Oh, yeah, another thing is when I get bored, I'll come in and I'll clean the edge of the paper. And then you do that, which is naughty girl. But anyway, let's start soon. So now that's okay. This is light enough now. For me, it's not warm enough. That was working with it.
Schmutz is a good word.
Yeah, there's schmutz in there. It's on my hands. Okay, I want it just to be a bit warmer. I'm starting to look at, see, so at least I've got my basic information down now. And I can start to pencil in at certain points if like, for instance, the number plate's not centered. Well, simple things like that can throw a painting. Sometimes if it's a looser design, you don't notice it. But I myself, because I have a slightly particular side to me that wants to make sure that things are right, will make that correction. And I'll lift probably that. All right, you got to speed this up. I want this to be warm. And remember, I said to you, these take 4 hours, not 1.5 hours. This is like a Speedy Gonzalez version. But I do have the painting done a little bit more. At the end, I'll show you. All clear. I'll put, now, do I want to put turquoise there? No. All right. Mixing up a blue with a Van Dyke, love Van Dyke brown. I mix my blacks. I don't have a black. The browns with the blues are really good. Vans and cars and all of that are so much easier than you think. They're very simple kinds of squares. With the more you paint them, the more you'll understand that. So, for instance, I need this has got to be worked out. That hasn't been worked out. But see, now here's my darkest dark coming in. This is a little wet still. So it gives me a slightly softer line, which I'm playing to my advantage. You've got to know your timing. Am I making anyone out there want to paint?
Yes.
You're kind.
Barbara, you had mentioned because of the changing light when you're painting outside, you would put those darks in. And when you're looking at the photo here, you can see there's some light areas under the car next to the tires. If you weren't doing this from a photo, would you have done these darks earlier?
No, they'd
No.
be done in my sketchbook.
Ah, okay. So you would have known that you wanted to keep those little spots of light
Absolutely.
under the car. Okay.
Yeah. Although sometimes when I have a really complicated street scene, I paint every single one of the cars first. And I paint them to this degree. I would have to show you an example of that. But if you're watching, when I post and I post my, how I proceed, yes, there are times when I might have maybe 8 cars.
Mm-hmm.
And I will put in the basic blocks and then I'll put the shadows in. And I will know that that's the darkest I'm going to go in the whole painting. And then I work backwards from that. But that's really because I'm finding an arrangement that I really like. Mm-hmm. And I am terrified I'm going to lose a car. So that's why I'll do it. It works well. The same when I'm putting figures, or let's say a guy runs by or rides by on a bicycle. Mm-hmm. I will come and grab my sketchbook, or a boat goes into a scene, and I'll grab my sketchbook and I will draw that boat at the angle, and then I will just insert it later. make any sense?
Hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not that very well versed in knowing exactly how figures and things work, but I just know that sometimes you see something and you go, oh, I got to get that. And oh, birds are another one. I love to, if I have birds, a bunch of birds next to me, I'll grab my sketchbook and paint out the birds so that I've got, a record of them. So I'm just using water to join this together.
It's really exciting to see those shadows go in. It just makes those cars jump.
Isn't it a lovely reward?
Yeah, yeah.
So that is part of my boredom game, is I paint with rewards.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes any sense,
No, it makes
because
perfect sense.
I have to be stimulated by what I'm doing, or I am easily, just like I just lose interest, and it's like, oh, but if I know, see, when you do your sketch, I know what's to come. So, I mean, even this, so I've just changed the value, changed the color. This was very dark. Now this has got blue reflecting in it. So if you looked at the painting, you'd see that there's blue in there. So I'm going to join some of these shapes. Making them nice and juicy and wet. Oh, boy, I love watercolor. I've been trying gouache. I love gouache because I basically am so envious of, I have a friend who's a pastelist, and she knows her colors. We put a color down and it dries completely different, and you go, ooh, darn it. And oil painters and acrylic and all of the others, they're able to make their colors and they're just spot on. And we're always doing this guess and giggle, or, oh, add another wash. Oh, add another wash. And I'm frustrated with that. But what's happened is the gouache has suddenly come into my life, and I can do all these real colors, and I can add white too. So I
Yeah.
get millions of extra tones of things. So I'm tying this together, but I've decided I've got to get up. I feel that I've got to I've got to tie this together. I want to bring out this corner here. I'm not scared because I did that dark. I just know that I need the contrast between this plane and that plane. Wetting the whole thing just to bring it all together. And the same goes for this one. I need to bring this out too. So how long have we got? Because I can bring out that other painting in a minute and show you what.
You have about 18 minutes, so I think you're still in good shape.
Oh, cool. Okay. Getting a bit more texture. And here, this dirty water becomes your friend, particularly when you want to put tire tread marks and that sort of thing into a scene. And I'm going to take my pencil, mark. So this is basically a single point perspective going back to here and then out. So it's basically there and out. You fan out. I like to draw through my paintings a lot because there's so many other details that I start to that get revealed as I go. This is going to pick up some of the pigment that's still wet. And even though, you know, it's just to get the textures. I'm not finishing my sentences, am I?
You're doing great.
You'd have to be kind to people like me.
Oh no, it's just awesome.
Well, I don't.
I love artists who are just talking and we're just getting a really, really great sense of your thinking process.
I pulled out a brush, just this brush here, which is a Blick Essential brush, and I thought, oh, I mean, honestly, is this the time to bring out a brush like that? And I say, why not? If I can get something off it. That doesn't want to come on. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I just wanted to bring another texture in. I think I'm going to have to play with that. But you know, what's painting for if you're not playing? All right, so I want to put in some shadowy things here while that's drying off. So Joseph, one of the things that motivates me when I'm making a choice of what to paint other than the, you know, the subject matter is the shadows.
Mhm.
The shadows. I really respond. I will go hunting to find great shadow shapes and great contrast. And that's why I had to start this, you know, putting in my darks first, because it was just driving me nuts that competing against all the oil painters, you know, they're coming in and they're putting all their darks in at the end, and I'm coming in and going, oh God, I missed it. Can't believe it. And that's one of the reasons why I ended up started doing it. And the thing is that they don't have to be blue. Remember that. They don't have to be blue. They just have to be a tonal indication for you. Now, I got to look at this more carefully because I want to get in and do the calligraphy.
So couple comments. Somebody said, I'm so inspired. She makes it fun. And somebody also said, I love watching you do what you do, Barbara. And Barbara is so inspiring. You make a complicated scene easy.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
For
But
most of
thank
us,
you.
it would still be complicated.
Thank you. No, look, thanks for the feedback. I have been a nervous wreck. I have a friend who's watching this and she knows. It was just like such terrible self-doubt of what the heck am I doing? I just go out and do. I don't talk about what I do. You know, but thank you. I really I'm going to be very glad when this is over. It's like a doctor's visit, you know, one that I didn't want to go to.
Well, you've done a great job talking about what you're doing.
Oh, listen, I'm getting closer to being free. I can taste it. Now look at this. Here's where I left a line. Well, that is going to go against me if I keep that. Could you see that?
Hmm.
That was going to compete against the cars. and I don't want that. And I also see that I start playing games in my head now. I step away and I start to look for where are my other darks that have got to come in. And, because you've got all this other language down, it's just play.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a little vintage car, and the one thing I love in cars, which people don't always put, is their rear view mirrors or their side mirrors. That's what that is. And I love painting cars. I always loved cars all my life. It ain't over yet. Now I've got to resolve this area. So it's got to be a tone. So can you see that?
Yes.
And then I've got to tie the back of the car. So these are too bright. So I got to wash it all in. So what happened? Now I can see that. And now I've got to reduce this section here. And I have to run a blue, dirty blue, and get rid of the light on that bumper. So that car's moved backwards. Now I've got to check here. There's a reflected light there, but it doesn't read correctly. There's some really nice little jumpy things that are happening here. They're the lively little things. So there I'm starting to bring that in, and I'm going to darken this even more. Pop. Use my finger as a guide as I'm looking through. Yes, the resistance. Something's got to happen here. Tie that to that. And that to that. And then I see a nice juicy dark. No, I don't. So it's nice lost and found shapes. So there's a lovely lost and found there. Now, if you look at the photo, it's very clean and very crisp. I don't want that. I want that light to pop. I want to feel that. All right. How close are we now?
You are 7 minutes, 8 minutes. A couple of other
Right.
comments that said, Barbara, wonderful to watch this demo and watch you share not only your tips, but your enthusiasm for plein air. And if you think about it, when you are plein air painting and when you do your painting rewards to yourself of details, darks, lights, you are also rewarding the people who are, I think it says, watching.
Oh, good. That's good. Now, I don't know, while you were talking then, I just glued out this section here because I'm going to take out that light there and I'm going to dull that as well because I'm trying to drive your eye to the really important lights. So at the end of this, I should take my pencil and take my eraser and clean because those will pop out. I'm going to dull this one down here at the back too. I want the roofs of the vehicles and that edge and that. This could be a bit lighter. That's fine. That's fine. Better in there. I don't know what that is. Okay, give me the last few minutes. Just say to me, okay, Barbara, you're done. Okay, because we haven't put on the windows. How fast can I be? I don't care about that. Just, ooh. And we've got some really nice little things that are happening here. So we need to get those in before we end. Blue, got to be blue. Okay, this is going to be a good shape because it's going to join the people. It's going to direct your eye to the little group of people who are there, probably. And then there's some lovely schmutz. Make it a bit browny things here. And then there's a this is my calligraphy. This is where I love putting in the little details of things. So there's two ways of putting this in, which I should show you because it's important. This is a rosemary, eradicator. But I never say that. It's like I want to say erascapable, erascapitator or something. All right. Come on, you got to lift up.
Mhm.
Lift. Yeah, all right. So anyway, I could lift this a little more carefully and then outline it with an edge, dirty brown edge. Too thick. All right, so. Wires. Something here. Dark shadow at top where the window is. This is the zip version, like a zip file. Oh yes, I amuse myself. And then I'm currently with my head over the camera. Remember I said to you we should put a much of the blue here. Starting to get there.
A lot of thank yous. A wonderful demo, very entertaining. Thanks for enlightening us. Love the storytelling aspect in addition to your obvious technical skills.
All right, I'm going to quickly put the other one that I did, which is kind of a different version. Sorry, it's crooked. Yeah. I mean, ain't it the truth when you start to get to the end of a painting and I put it away and then I look at it and then I put it away and then I look at it and I go, oh. And then I say to my friend, oh, I'm going to finish right now. Half an hour later, I thought you said you were finishing. I say, no, yeah, well, that didn't happen. And here you can sort of start to incorporate some other textures into the elevation just to sort of, and then I'm still not convinced about, I'm going to take a risk and change that to a darker. There, that'll do. Here's the other one.
And how much time did you spend on this one?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half. Well, I think, yeah, they're just both spectacular. If you will you continue working on that one, Barbara?
Are you kidding? I've got to go pack for.
Well,
No,
I'm gonna if you just hold it there for a sec, what I'll do
hold
is
on. Let me just get it straight. We're
okay,
all.
great. I will take a screenshot and then I'm gonna put it in the video that we post on YouTube.
Okay, I have to do one thing. I can see it.
Sure. I'll be here for as long as you want.
That needed to be incorporated. It was wrong. And there needs to be a touch of yellow. Oh, Barbara Tapp. Not that much. Just to warm up. Well, that'll do. That's fine.
Yeah.
Now I can incorporate this a bit more. Anyway, thank you guys for coming.
Barbara, thank you so much. It was absolutely wonderful and inspiring. Uh, I just love your work.
Well, you're very kind. As I
And
say,
everybody, if you we will be posting the recording in a couple days. We'll add I got a copy of her sketch and Barbara, could you send me the reference photo?
yes.
Okay. So we'll get the reference photo and the sketch and the final painting and I'll add that to the video as well.
Thank you very much. I'm just tying in a couple of other
Well, like I
little
said, I'm
things.
still here, so I'll go as long as you go.
No. I think that's, all right. Has everybody else dropped off?
No, we still have what do we got? We still have 60 people here.
Go to bed, people. I'm going to pack and then hit the track in the wee hours of the morning.
Are you driving or flying?
Oh, I'm driving 12 hours.
Yeah, that's a long haul.
It's a long haul. I'm peaceful.
But you know what's fun is
What?
waking up if you get there in the dark and you wake up in the morning to those beautiful colors, that's always fun.
I know. I know. It's I know. That's the exciting thing is that I don't know what's ahead of me. I don't know what I'm going to choose to paint. I, I mean, oh, look, see, there is something we have to do. Oh my goodness me. Oh, hold on. My favorite part of my paintings is the calligraphy at the end. And of course, I never have the right brushes. I'm terrible. But that has to be tied because those lines have to go in front of the trees. And here we have yeah. Okay, I'm done.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much, Barbara. And thank you, everybody. I hope you had a great
Thank
evening.
you.
And we look forward to seeing everybody next month.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Barbara. And if, yeah, you know what would be helpful is if you send me the reference photo, and then if you are going to do a few more little tweaks on this, just take a snapshot of it and send that to me.
I am not. I'm done. If
Okay.
I continue, I won't get my packing done, and I won't get.
All right. Put your brushes down.
They're down.
All
Because
right,
see,
Barbara.
I have to take all this stuff and now pack it up so I can take it with me. Oh, that's good. I'm so glad I've done that one. My goodness.
Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much. Hope you get some rest.
I will. I'll be in bed by 10:30 and up at 5.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, have a good trip and hope to talk to you when you get back and think about that plein air workshop.
I will.
All righty. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm gonna hang
everyone.
up. I know I've got to hang up, but I've got to figure out how.
Barbara.
Go to bed, Barbara.
No, got to go pack.